Students who have challenged Musk Bull alone must be familiar with Roland's name. Especially the famous scene where he held a small knife and went head-on against a 900-pound musk ox is sure to shock you. Roland was thus hailed by everyone as the strongest war god. But after the strongest war god fought Musk Bull one-on-one, he shouted out Dan G's name. This Dan is none other than Jordan, the deer god from the 6th season of Alone in the Wild. He successfully shot a 900-pound moose with just one arrow. With just this one arrow, Jordan was directly deified. In addition, he also caught a giant pike that was truly worth 500,000 US dollars. As the first god of war, Jordan doesn't need too many words to prove his strength. Next, I will spend 40 minutes and 15,000 words to give you a detailed and thorough explanation. How did Jordan win the championship in this brutal Arctic survival challenge? It's been 6 days since Jordan made his debut. His shelter has long been completed. However, at that time, the original film did not show the construction process of the shelter. To make up for the visual deficiencies of the program at that time, we might as well invite Jordan back to his old place. Let him recreate this champion hut for us again. The reason why Jordan chose this position. The most important reason is that it is relatively close to the water source here. Water must be drunk every day. Therefore, the location of shelters and water sources can determine the fixed amount of energy consumed physically each day. For instance, the monthly mortgage and car loan are fixed expenses. But hunting often requires going 2 or 3 kilometers away. This is the key reason why Jordan needed to spend a lot of time moving back to the shelter when hunting moose. Roland hunted musk oxen 4 kilometers away from the shelter. He was half the distance away from Jordan. Jordan had already built the permanent shelter on the 6th day. Although it's not an epic sanctuary, but this is related to Jordan's survival plan. The requirement for the shelter in the early stage were not high. So he just randomly picked a small flat area and quickly built a shelter. He wanted to spend more time hunting, because Jordan had already known the other players before the game started. Among the 10 contestants, the thinnest one is myself. It is almost impossible to win by starving and burning fat. So the sooner a permanent shelter is built, the more beneficial it is for oneself. For Roland's ultimate wilderness machine that uses hundreds of pounds of huge stones to build stone houses, Jordan prefers to win with wisdom and strategy. Both of them performed very well. Do different things based on your own situation. If we have to compare them together, that is because Roland was brave and Jordan was resourceful. The scene returns to the process of replicating Jordan's sanctuary. These pieces of wood on the ground were also removed by Jordan before he left. These pieces of wood belong to the legacy of the champion. So I just stayed where I was and didn't move. The shelter at that time also made use of clay and moss. But the reissue version can only be a bit more casual. Jordan first built the area framework of a shelter on the ground, then stacked them up from bottom to top. Moss was also used to fix the wooden stakes during the process. While building the shelter, it is necessary to reserve the space for the fireplace, and there is a rough shape of a fireplace in one's mind. In short, the construction of the shelter has not yet begun. Your mind should already have its shape. A pit was dug in the corner of the shelter. Then use stones to build a fireplace position. Clay ceiling is needed to build a fireplace. Prevent flames from spreading through the crevices of the rocks and reaching the shelter. This inevitably brings up the incident at Amos' shelter. His incident was taken as an official negative preventive textbook. The tarpaulins brought by the contestants are limited. Jordan used a wooden stick to set up and measure the amount of tarpaulin used. Cut off the excess tarpaulin. The cut waterproof fabric can be used as a bag. Jordan used tarpaulins to transport clay at that time. He uses clay as an adhesive. Put it between each stone. This not only serves the purpose of sealing and preventing crossfire, it will also make the fireplace more solid. For the challenge of living alone in the wilderness, there is a fireplace in the shelter. It can effectively prevent cold and keep warm in winter. Let's make an assumption. In the cold Arctic wilderness, outside, it was snowing heavily, but inside the shelter, it was as warm as spring. You are enjoying grilled meat while taking in the snow scenery. It's simply amazing. After the stone fireplace was built, Jordan lit a fire to test the smoke exhaust performance of the fireplace. The long chimney enhances the suction. The smoke from a burning fire is effectively discharged from the chimney opening. Moreover, the fire burned even more fiercely as a result. This means that the construction of the fireplace was very successful. Now we can continue to build the shelter. Jordan's shelter is an A-shaped shelter. Arrange 2 wooden sticks in an A shape. Then fix it with an umbrella rope. The cut of the umbrella rope needs to be burned with fire to prevent the rope from coming apart and getting damaged. An A-shaped shelter requires 2 frames. Place another crossbeam in the middle for support. Building a shelter requires a large amount of wood. Jordan cut down a lot of wood nearby. Each piece of wood needs to be trimmed according to the height of the shelter. It's too short to provide support. If it's too long, it will puncture the waterproof fabric. Here's an analysis for everyone. It usually takes 5 or 6 days to build a shelter in a real competition environment. But this time, Jordan was invited back to recreate the champion's sanctuary to save construction time. So there are staff members helping to collect materials. There are many of these uniform-sized pine trees at the edge of the Arctic Circle. It is very suitable for building shelters. The way of cutting down wood is also very particular. Cutting at an angle saves more energy. Cutting down wood is a physically demanding job. Will smart players know how to save energy? What should I do if the axe becomes blunt during the felling process? The multifunctional knife that Jordan brought with him. The grinding tools above can be used to sharpen the axe. Among the 10 items that Jordan brought with him. So I brought this multifunctional knife. At first, I had no idea what this multifunctional knife was for. It was not until now that Jordan showed it to me. After the framework of the shelter was built, the excess protruding parts also need to be cut off. After the repair is completed, lay the tarpaulin again. The bottom edge of the tarpaulin is pressed down with stones. At the same time, the chimney opening of the fireplace also needs to be trimmed. The extra branch waste can be placed outside the shelter. It plays a dual protective role. The winter in the Arctic is extremely cold. Jordan collected a lot of hay and spread it on the floor of the shelter. After the basic structure of the shelter was completed, Jordan tested the smoke exhaust performance of the fireplace again. There's basically no problem. The fireplace is leaking smoke. At this point, it can be repaired with clay. The tarpaulins used for transporting clay must not be wasted. Tap it to be hung at the door of the shelter. It can play a role in preventing wind. During the game, Jordan only used half of the entrance to his shelter. The other half of the shelter was sealed with a pile of wood. As for the reindeer skulls, they were hung up only after successful hunting in the later stage. The following is the general process of Jordan replicating the championship shelter at that time. I wonder what everyone thinks of the degree of restoration. Back on the field, Jordan went out early in the morning to set up hunting traps. He set up a 4-character stone trap and a snare trap with a prey past. The average temperature in the Canadian Arctic at the beginning of winter is minus 26 degrees Celsius. It can reach as low as minus 51 degrees. When the temperature drops to several dozen degrees below zero, almost over 90% of animals hibernate. Jordan wants to stockpile as much food as possible before winter comes. Only then is there a little chance of winning. He has already begun to feel anxious about food. Jordan runs a farm. He spends most of his time living in the forest. I once lived with local reindeer herders in Siberia for 5 years. Have a profound understanding of the living habits of reindeer. During this process, he acquired many survival skills in the snow. What are fishing, setting traps, and hunting all basic operations? He also had a thorough understanding of the reindeer species with reindeer herders. Before the game started, Jordan had told his wife that he hoped to successfully summon a reindeer. Although there's a large villa of several thousand square meters living at home. But $500,000 is a generous bonus for him. This is the purpose of Jordan's participation in the competition. Jordan came to the mountain peak to explore the hunting environment. The position ahead is where he takes refuge. It just took a long detour. This curve is at least 4 or 5 kilometers away. Jordan felt very angry at once. It's not the distance that makes one angry, but this place was burned by a big fire. Forest fires can lead to the expulsion of a large number of animal populations. The fewer animals in the area, the greater the difficulty of survival will be. Although all 10 locations have the most basic conditions necessary for survival. But every place has its advantages and disadvantages. Time flew by, and it was already the 9th day. Jordan has set up quite a few traps during this period, and it was the first bumper harvest. Today is a day worth celebrating. Jordan returned to the shelter with a backpack full of items. These 4 rabbits gave Jordan hunting its first win. It gave him hope for survival. 4 rabbits provide 4,000 to 4,800 calories of energy. It can meet Jordan's short-term food needs. However, rabbit meat has a relatively low fat content. 4 long-term survival challenges. Additional sources of fat still need to be sought. Jordan immediately began to deal with the rabbit meat. When he skinned one of the rabbits, it was found that a lot of white milk was flowing out of this rabbit's body. Seeing this, Jordan immediately began to lick. Rabbit milk contains a certain amount of fat and trace vitamins. It helps enhance the body's immunity and promote bone health, among other benefits. Rabbit meat can fill your stomach. Rabbit skin can be made into clothes for warmth. A rabbit was left with only about 2 pounds of meat after its internal organs were dealt with. When I thought Jordan would be extravagant because of too much food, he actually only stewed 1 pot of soup on the first night, and it was stewed with 4 rabbit heads and some internal organs. He is one of the few players I have ever seen who has made the best use of everything. Just this one thing about him. I knew Jordan would handle the food aspect very well. The rabbit's brain and internal organs are full of nutrients. For example, vitamin B12, folic acid, protein, and iron. Only by making good use of every detail can one survive longer. However, it wasn't only Jordan who ate the meat. On the 6th day, Linton caught his first big fish. This fish gave him spiritual encouragement. Food is the driving force for all the contestants to move forward. When he cut open the fish's belly with a knife and took out the fish maw, a bucket of cold water was poured over the head. There are many parasites in the fish bubbles. If parasites are ingested, it may cause abdominal pain, diarrhea, and vomiting. The food that was painstakingly caught was actually infected by parasites. Looking at the fish in front of me, I instantly lost my appetite. It was obvious that the initial enthusiasm was no longer there when handling the fish meat. But Linton had no intention of discarding the fish. Instead, they chose to stew the fish thoroughly enough to take a gamble. If you win, you can have a big meal. Having lost, one can only leave the stage with regret. Nathan also caught a fish. He caught a lake trout in his gill net. It is now the migratory season for trout. Fish roe is more nutritious than fish meat. An adult trout can produce 1,500 to 18,000 grams of roe. Nathan squeezed the fish's belly with his hand. Remove the roe from the trout by massaging it. Fish roe is completely safe to eat raw from birth, but they may also carry tapeworms and other parasite larvae. Nathan looked at the bag of fresh fish roe in his hand. He took a bite without hesitation. Fish roe is rich in protein and fat. For Nathan, these fish roe are delicious, vibrant, and pure food. Nathan used a knife to handle the innards of the fish. String a few fish roe on the fish hook as bait. He wants to fish with fish roe. He soon began to feel unwell after returning to the shelter and began to vomit. Hunting in the wild often comes with huge risks. Please don't imitate easily. In the blink of an eye, the 14th night has passed. Jordan woke up early in the morning and was recounting what had happened last night. There were some noises near the shelter last night. He walked out of the shelter to observe the situation. A moose was found near the shelter, but he didn't overreact last night, because this moose that came to his door was very likely to become his hunting target. Early on the 15th day, Jordan planned to go out and look for traces of moose, although he has a large amount of rabbit meat now. But the fat content of rabbit is only half that of a serving of beef. To survive in this cold winter, one must consume enough fat to resist the cold. However, moose are rich in delicious fat. This is the reason why Jordan wanted to hunt it from the very beginning. Jordan saw many fresh footprints on the ground. This should have been left behind by the moose when it came to the nearby area for activities last night. It is the mating season for moose now. It is also called the deer cry season. Male moose will make calls to attract females, but not all the calls are made by male moose. It could also be a male Jordan. Jordan judged the direction in which the moose had left by the footprints. The location where the footprints are concentrated here is only 30 meters away from the shelter. Jordan thought this was a very good sign for hunting. He plans to build an early warning system. String up the discarded iron cans with ropes. Whenever a moose passes by and touches the rope, it will make a noise. I hope the moose won't be scared by these noises. The plan to hunt moose didn't take a turn for the better until 3 p.m. on the 16th day. Jordan was sitting in the shelter, drinking tea. He didn't want to wait by the stump for the moose to show up. Instead, they want to take the initiative by fishing. He carried a hunting bow and arrow and a large horn made of tree bark as a tool for committing crimes. Jordan wanted to attract moose by imitating the cries of deer. Among them, the short throat sounds are made by male moose, and long moans are emitted by female moose. Whether to hunt males or females is entirely up to Jordan's personal preference. Just 2 simple calls. Let's just wait for the moose to show up next. It's around 5:30 p.m. The crow's wild cries caught Jordan's attention. Crows often send out a sentry to alert other birds of potential dangers. At the same time, Jordan's warning system made a noise. Jordan, armed with a bow and arrow, went out to observe. I haven't had time to change the socks and long johns on my feet yet. Jordan observed for a while. To my surprise, I found a moose by the water source in the distance. It's about 50 meters away from Jordan. This might be his only chance to hunt. Jordan didn't hesitate and shot directly with his bow. It might be due to the long distance. The bow and arrow landed right between the moose's 2 legs. Jordan missed a hunting opportunity. He said that if he were given another chance, he would surely succeed. In the following 2 days, Jordan did try to go fishing, but there was no gain, compared with standing by the shore like a fool and fishing. Jordan thinks hunting is more interesting. He wanted to check the trap, but there was no gain at all. There are fewer and fewer rabbits here. The probability of catching rabbits will be lower after winter sets in. Jordan suffered a failed hunt for the moose. Under the triple blow of fruitless fishing, air force, and trap setting, he thought of his father. My father suffered from diabetes, which led to the amputation of 1 leg. Then both hands lost sensation again. But he always shows a positive and super inspiring attitude. My father's positive attitude towards life has profoundly influenced me. So even though we are facing many failures and setbacks now, Jordan still demonstrated a positive and optimistic attitude. Not every champion living alone in the wilderness managed to hunt moose and musk oxen, but almost every champion has an optimistic attitude. Jordan reviewed his first failed experience of hunting moose at the shelter. He decided to change his hunting strategy based on the previous life experience and understanding with reindeer herders. Jordan plans to build a reindeer enclosure and guide the potential moose to stay. It has to be said that Jordan's idea is truly brilliant to the extreme. Having no fixed abode, the world is one's home. If I gave you a house, you would probably just stay. Jordan truly lives up to his reputation as the most strategic player in the history of living alone in the wild. The method of imitating the reindeer's call to perform the fairy dance last time, although it attracted moose. But the hunt failed because the distance was too far. This time, they tricked the moose into moving in under the pretext of giving away a house. I have to mention the hunting aspect. Roland could at most work wonders with great force. But Jordan is truly different. The reindeer enclosure is done. Now, just wait for the cheap moose to claim it. At 8 a.m. on the 20th day, Jordan has just woken up from the shelter. After getting up, go out to check for traps. But there was no game. But when he looked up and took a closer look, he found a moose ahead. It seems that the reindeer enclosure has worked. Jordan immediately drew an arrow and shot. It can be known from the narration. Jordan has successfully hit this moose. I can't believe he could hit the target precisely from such a distance. It's about the same distance as Roland's hunting of musk oxen. Jordan followed the direction in which the moose had left. I saw a lot of blood on the ground. The bloodstain contains a large number of bubbles. This means that the animal's lungs might have been hit. Jordan followed the bloodstains on the ground to look for the moose, but the footprints left by the moose were faint. He lost his way for a moment. At this point, I could only rely on my years of hunting experience. Make the right judgment by looking at the traces in the grass. Fortunately, Jordan spotted the fallen moose not far away. Moose with lung injuries is doomed not to survive. All that's left is to wait for it to die from excessive blood loss. But this usually requires waiting for more than 6 hours before death. Jordan wanted to step forward to catch up. But when considering that moose during the mating period have a strong sense of territory and aggressiveness, he was afraid that adding arrows would cause the moose to run away or kill him in return. For safety considerations, Jordan could only keep waiting. It's also hunting large prey. Roland chose to confront the 900-gene musk ox with a knife. What he demonstrated was not merely excellent hunting skills, and there's also astonishing courage of a tough guy. Jordan, on the other hand, chose to wait more conservatively. Perhaps this is why Roland is called the true god, and that's probably why Jordan is called the deer god. After waiting for 3 consecutive hours, the moose suddenly stood up. Perhaps it sensed that Jordan was here. The moose's trembling body was about to make a final resistance. The sudden fall to the ground foretold Jordan's successful hunt. Jordan slowly approached the fallen moose. Looking at the huge object before me, my heart was tense and filled with amazement. After 20 days of arduous battle, Jordan finally got the result of his persistent efforts. At this moment, I admit, you are more handsome than any of your brothers who have just taken a bath in front of the screen. After the excited joy, the main task is to prevent venison from rotting. Jordan decided to take out the internal organs first. Because of the bacterial reproduction rate of internal organs is 3 to 5 times the size of muscle tissue. And this operation can also quickly lower the overall temperature, reduce the problem of rapid bacterial growth. To buy time for the subsequent processing and storage of meat, a moose weighs between 850 and 900 pounds. Apart from a large amount of edible meat, the fur of moose is also a treasure. The Evenki people in Siberia usually use reindeer fur as warm clothing to get through the cold Arctic winter. Facing this huge creature before me, even an experienced hunter uses the right tools. It takes an average of more than 2 hours to deal with a moose. Jordan first removed one of the moose's thighs. The femoral artery in the thigh transports oxygen-rich blood to the leg and pelvic area. Cutting the major artery can cause the meat to cool down rapidly. The internal organs of the moose must also be removed quickly. This can effectively slow down the growth of bacteria on the meat. But when Jordan struck with one slash, I accidentally cut through the moose's stomach. Streams of fresh blood, mixed with gastric juice, gushed out. Piercing the stomach may release intestinal bacteria that can destroy any meat that comes into contact with it. Such a low-level mistake has never occurred before. It is very likely to cause Jordan to lose a lot of weight as a result. This forced him to finish dealing with all the meat as soon as possible. He first cut off the head of the moose. This is a fine reserve food after the onset of winter. Jordan's race against time in this split game. It lasted until evening. Although he knew that animals were active at night, it is very dangerous to break down moose in the dark. But he was even more reluctant to give up this rare protein. It was not until 10 o'clock at night that he took all the meat away. On the 21st day, Jordan hung all the meat on the tree. A high-altitude platform for storing food was also built. The wooden support was sharp and smooth. Prevent rats from climbing up to steal meat to eat. Before the moose was hunted, it feels like all the animals are cute and delicious. But now Jordan feels that all the animals are thieves. Jordan embodied the double standards to the fullest. Now what he fears most is being visited by black bears. Black bears can smell meat from 20 miles away. If Jordan had built the same stone house shelter as Roland, I believe there wouldn't be such troubles. Winter has not yet fully arrived. At the current temperature, if not stored properly, Jordan's meat may go bad in less than 5 days. So Jordan plans to turn the entire shelter into a smoking oven. Smoked meat may take 24 hours to achieve the best results. After waiting for several hours, the venison became firm under the baking of the fireplace. Smoking can dehydrate meat and create an acidic surface on it, making it difficult for bacteria to grow. This is also a challenge of racing against time. Apart from the smoked meat in the shelter, the meat on the storage rack that has not been processed yet also needs protection. Jordan covered the surface of the meat with pine branches. This operation is mainly used to prevent animals from stealing food. After returning to the shelter, Jordan worked nonstop to build an early warning system. To protect these hard-won venison, Jordan really racked his brains. On the 23rd day, the entire wilderness was covered with a layer of snow overnight. This is a good thing for Jordan. It is snowing heavily outside, but he was grilling meat kebabs inside the room. This feeling is undoubtedly the most refreshing. When a piece of venison that is about 80% cooked is put into the mouth, the long-lost fleshy feeling at this moment is the best feedback for his hard work and dedication over the past few days. The fragrant smell of grilled meat filled the shelter. Take a gentle bite. The meat is tender and fresh, with a smoky aroma after roasting and a hint of game flavor. Every chew is a reward for his efforts. Jordan is obviously happy, and Vonia also has a different feeling about happiness. When she was at her wit's end, hunting finally saw a turning point. Vonia raised her first grouse. Perhaps this tiny grouse is not as delicious as Jordan's venison, but for Vonia, the arrival of this grouse was enough to make her feel happy and shed tears. Barry caught another big trout in his gill net. This fish was a sumptuous dinner for him. 1/4 of a pound of lake trout contains approximately 7 grams of fat. This trout can keep Barry eating for 2 days. This lake trout is the best gift that snow on the first day of winter gave Barry. For Barry, isn't this also a kind of happiness? By this time, Nikki had not eaten anything for 8 consecutive days. On the 23rd day, when checking the traps, unexpectedly, I got a rabbit. This rabbit was undoubtedly a timely help to her. Happiness's saliva also trickled from the corners of my eyes. The same is true of Vonia. Her trap also caught a rabbit. The laughter that resounded through the deserted land was enough to prove her wonderful moment. Vonia collected all the rabbit furs she had hunted. Plan to make a scarf to keep warm. I wonder if the rabbit will be scared to death when it sees this scarf. However, the definition of happiness is not merely hunting for food. Be able to enjoy delicious grilled meat. It's also possible that the shelter was burned down. This feeling of regaining what was lost. Nikki caused a fire in the shelter because the fireplace was not up to standard. At this moment, she was in despair. Fortunately, she managed to control the fire in time. At this moment, she was equally fortunate. The area where the fire burned was not large. Just make a simple repair and you can continue the challenge. At this moment, Nikki still has a chance to compete for $500,000. Who can say that she is not happy? Time flew by, and it was already the 36th day. Jordan held the grilled meat and said, "Eating meat is too difficult." My brain shrank instantly upon hearing this. Listen, is this sentence spoken by a human? He said he had a toothache after eating too much meat, so he sharpened a wooden stick. When eating meat, use wooden sticks instead of teeth to eat meat. The ancient Babylonians used chewing sticks as a substitute for toothbrushes. For a moment, I felt a bit speechless at this funny guy in front of me. Don't be fooled by how happily he is smiling now. When he goes to check the reserve meat, the footprints that appeared on the snow made his heart tremble. The dense footprints on the ground must have been left by the thief who wanted to steal the meat. It's about 20 meters away from the shelter here. Jordan has a more footprint of judgment. It is guessed that it was left by a mink bear. The sable bear is a ruthless hunter. It may even lurk 20 feet beneath the snow, waiting for hibernating prey. The first thing Jordan thought of was to set up an early warning system. Make a noise when the prey comes to steal the meat. One can drive away the thief in time by oneself. A silent battle to protect food is about to break out. In the evening, Jordan decided to stay up late tonight to fight against the sneaker. A sable bear did come here indeed. Jordan heard footsteps in the shelter. He quietly observed at the entrance of the shelter. Jordan returned to the shelter and recounted what had just happened. He saw a mink bear getting ready to steal food. But when Jordan found out, he ran away. This process is both tense and exciting. Hungry sable bears are known to attack competing predators. So Jordan just scared away. It didn't cause any harm to it. I hope this guy won't come to steal food anymore. Jordan checks his reserve meat every day. When he lifted the loose branch to check, it was found that the fat in the kidneys had been stolen. This put Jordan in a dilemma all at once. I can't finish the meat all at once. But it is impossible to avoid being stolen and eaten by animals. This fat was stored up by him on the 22nd day. 1 gallon of moose fat contains approximately 35,000 calories. If sugar and carbohydrates are not consumed in winter, then what is consumed will only be fat rather than protein. So this gallon of moose fat is very important for Jordan. He would rather have 10 pounds of venison stolen, nor did I want a gallon of fat to be stolen. Jordan is very angry now. Fong Fong kept spitting out of his mouth. Anyway, I just wish this ferret good health and a prosperous year. After reorganizing the meat storage platform, Jordan is going to start fighting back against the sneaker next. He plans to set up a bunch of traps around and set up an alarm system. Just hear the sound of can. Immediately pick up the bow, an arrow, and go hunting. Jordan's kindness once brought about the loss of 1 gallon of moose fat. Now he no longer acts as such a great benefactor. He vowed to make the ferret bear who stole food pay with his life. Jordan set up an alarm system on the open ground. This is a battle between Jordan and the grizzly. Let time tell who will win and who will lose. Jordan chose to stay up late again tonight. He has to wait for the thief from last night to show up. The sable bear is a nocturnal predator. It's probably between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Time passed little by little. Some strange noises came from outside the shelter again. Sure enough, the thief started to break the rules again. Jordan went out for an inspection with a bow and arrow. He waited quietly in the dark for an opportunity. A cheer and laughter foretold Jordan's successful hunt. It has to be said that Jordan's hunting skills are just too amazing. All the prey he aimed at couldn't be caught. Jordan carried a mink back to the shelter. The average weight of a sable bear is between 20 and 66 pounds, but most of it is muscle. Anyway, I'm having a good time tonight. Jordan not only eliminated the thief. Instead, I gained several dozen pounds more meat. This sable bear never expected that the price of a gallon of fat would be its own life. Don't steal Jordan's food again in the next life. Early the next morning, last night, that predator, the ferret bear, was hung on the tree. Although the expression was a bit strange. But this is the consequence of angering Jordan. There are many animals in the jungle. Besides mink bears, there are other predators. Jordan plans to build a higher food storage platform. He chose 3 straight pine trees here. And here, start building a 3-meter-high aerial platform. Use an axe to remove the bark of the pine tree. Peeling off the bark makes it more difficult for scavengers to climb trees. The practice of storing food in midair is actually not uncommon. Players have done this in other seasons as well. Although raising the platform prevents thieves from stealing food, but it has also become much more difficult to get the meat by oneself. So Jordan built another wooden ladder with wood. With this ladder, moving the reserved meat will be much easier. Jordan placed all the meat he didn't finish on a 3-meter-high aerial platform. I hope this can effectively prevent animals from stealing food. In the blink of an eye, 45 days have passed. Today is the day for the physical examination of the contestants. The physical examination results were not satisfactory. His weight has dropped a lot, although Jordan now has several hundred pounds of reserved meat. But moose have a very low fat content. The fat content in every 100 grams of moose meat is less than 1 gram. If this continues, Jordan is very likely to starve to death by eating grilled meat every day. If you don't consume sugar and carbohydrates in the cold winter, then what is consumed will only be fat rather than protein. So even if Jordan ate meat every day, he would still starve to death. To reverse this predicament, Jordan turned his gaze to the trout in the lake. Fish oil is rich in omega-3 fatty acids. Each tablespoon contains 13.5 grams of fat. This means that a trout swimming in the lake is equivalent to a fat pig that can fly. Jordan fixed the fishing line reel to a stick with trap wires. A primitive fishing rod was made. The predatory behavior that he once looked down upon. Now I have to spend time fishing for the sake of fat. This homemade original fishing rod. It seemed to be even more useful than he had imagined. There was already a fish biting the hook on the first shot. He pulled the fish ashore unhurriedly. Just at this moment, the fat that reached the mouth just slipped away like that. The trout's unhooking not only takes away the bait, he also took away the fish hook that Jordan brought. He sat on the shore, a little at a loss. But fishing is definitely out of the question. This is truly the case of life being unpredictable, with the large intestine enveloping the small intestine. In the evening, Jordan made fun of himself in the shelter. This guy just hunted a moose. He is eating grilled meat, but he was starving to death. Such a realistic and absurd thing could actually befall oneself. Even though Jordan had several hundred pounds of venison, but he still felt that he was at a dead end now. This does look quite ridiculous indeed. Life is not always smooth sailing. Perhaps only when there are ups and downs can it be considered perfect. Jordan walked the runway here early in the morning wearing a rabbit fur coat. Seeing him reminds me of the scene of Kelly, the runner-up of the 7th season of Living Alone in the Wild. She also made a rabbit fur coat to walk the runway. In the film, Kelly also stated that she was paying tribute to Michael Jordan, the deer god, in the 7th season. That's why the two of them look exactly the same in this scene. In fact, during this period of time, Jordan has always been going fishing, but all ended up with the Air Force. He now wants winter to come soon so that he can go ice fishing on the lake. Before catching any fish, the only thing Jordan could get fat from was this deer head. He used a knife to remove the fat under his scalp. I want to collect this subcutaneous fat to extract oil. The moose tongue is one of the most precious and nutritious parts of the entire moose. It is rich in high-quality protein and healthy fats, which are extremely important in the Arctic environment. The tongue of a moose is particularly tender and rich in B vitamins and minerals such as iron and zinc, which can quickly replenish energy and help blood circulation. In an environment of minus tens of degrees Celsius, the body consumes a large amount of calories to keep warm, and the fat on the tongue has a high energy density and is an efficient source of calories. Jordan put deer tongues in an iron pot to extract the oil. This pot of fat smells so good just by its aroma. Not to mention how delicious it is to mix rice with the oil residue inside. Jordan poured the refined oil into jars for storage. The remaining fried food can be served as a snack. The grease he got today is enough for him to last until winter. Jordan refined the oil because he failed to catch any fish. But Nathan isn't. He caught a big fish weighing over 10 pounds in his gill net. Make smoke-dried meat from the fish. He can be allowed to eat it continuously for 2 weeks. In addition, he also caught a pike in his gill net. This is the largest pike he has ever caught. A length of 50 centimeters almost fills the entire screen. Nathan is the player who has caught the most fish so far this season. This scene was witnessed by Jordan. It's likely to leave a ground full of saliva. Barry also caught a big trout. Every fish is rich in fat. It was the food that Jordan couldn't have been longing for. It was still dark on the 50th day. Jordan had already woken up and was clearing his throat. He said that in this way, the throat could be cleared by vibration without itching. Jordan, who was accustomed to long-term loneliness. One can always find time for self-entertainment in the midst of loneliness and solitude. Jordan checks the meat storage platform every day. When he climbed up the 3-meter high platform to check the remaining meat, but it was found that all the fat on the meat had vanished. Jordan saw many tooth marks on his flesh. There are still some furs on the tree trunk. He looked around and found the footprints of wolverines, the long and curved claws of a wolverine. It can help them climb trees that have even been stripped of their bark. Wolverines are constantly stealing the fat from moose meat. Jordan has to start a new fat defense battle. A 3-meter platform is already high enough, since wolverines can climb up through smooth tree trunks, then set up traps along its inevitable path for hunting. Jordan set traps on every tree trunk. Wolverines have a high probability of catching them when they climb up. In addition, there is an alarm system between the tree trunks. As soon as you touch the cans on these rope shelters, there will be a noise. This is the most meticulously designed and complex meat storage platform I have ever seen in history. In the blink of an eye, it's already the 51st day. Today is his daughter's 3rd birthday. Jordan said happy birthday to his daughter from afar early in the morning. Although I miss my child very much now, but the emotions Jordan showed were not negative. He doesn't want to waste too much time missing his family. Long-term living alone did not break him down, apart from his optimistic attitude towards life. From time to time, Jordan would make some trinkets for his own entertainment. He carved some card games from tree bark. However, the bet was his $500,000 reward. This should be the biggest bet on living alone in the wilderness in history, right? It's just that both the middleman and the market maker are Jordan alone. The rules of the game on the table are clear, and the outcome is obvious at a glance. The game of life is always ambiguous. Fate won't tell you what cards it holds, nor will it change its order because of your efforts. It is precisely for this reason that every choice and every card played becomes so important. On the 59th day, the temperature at this moment is minus 14 degrees. The lake's surface has completely frozen over. Jordan began his ice fishing plan, but there has never been any gain. Until the 63rd day, Jordan changed his ice fishing plan to winter fishing. He is weaving a barb net. Fishing has never been Jordan's survival plan, but fishing with gill nets is one of the steps. He was extremely eager to catch the plump trout for a hearty meal. The long-term lack of sufficient fat intake has led to a continuous decline in weight. Humans should consume 44 to 78 grams of fat every day, but Jordan's daily fat intake was far lower than the normal value. This gill net took him almost a whole day, standing outdoors for a whole day at minus 14 degrees. My feet had long been frozen to the point of losing all sensation. This is not something that ordinary people can endure when one already has so much meat. Most contestants might choose to just lie flat. How many people can endure this hardship? It took Jordan 2 days to weave this barb net. He made a pair of shoes that could walk on ice. This wide ice surface shoe can effectively increase the force-bearing area. This reduces the chance of breaking the ice if an accident of falling into the water occurs during ice fishing. Soaking in cold water can cause a rapid drop in body temperature, increase the risk of hypothermia. If you also come to the wild for ice fishing, Either hold a long wooden stick like Roland, or just like Jordan did, make a pair of wide ice shoes. The wind in the Arctic, like a knife, cuts across the face, freezing the sky and the earth into a silent white. The sound of the axe hitting the ice echoed in the silence. True survival is not about fighting against nature, but learning to reach out and open up the possibility of life, even in the most desperate situations. Jordan chiseled 2 holes in the ice. One is the inlet port, and the other is the outlet port. Jordan covered the hole with snow. The high proportion of snow greatly reduces the transfer of trapped air. This can effectively prevent ice from forming at the entrance of the cave. 3 days have passed in the blink of an eye. The ice on the lake's surface is getting thicker and thicker. Jordan, who hadn't washed his hair for dozens of days, had an itchy scalp that went numb due to food shortages and a monotonous diet. Jordan's long-term lack of nutrition led to extensive hair loss. He began to gradually realize that his hair was becoming thinner. What does a little hair matter for a $500,000 reward? Jordan is going to check the barbed wire today. Long-term malnutrition made him feel physically exhausted. Jordan was worried that he would lose weight too quickly and be forced to withdraw from the competition by the program team. Now he pins all his hopes on this barb net. He pushed aside the snow at the entrance of the cave. Try to pull up the gill net in the water. He appeared in front of the camera holding a trout. The trout was pulled out of the water and instantly formed an ice sculpture within less than a minute. The air Jordan exhaled through his nose also condensed on his beard. The air here is so dry that there is not a trace of moisture, while the trout is still not frozen hard. He immediately slit open the trout. Jordan directly generates the fat on the fish intestines. The texture is as smooth and dense as ice cream. This trout will provide Jordan with about 4 days worth of fat. No part should be wasted, but not everyone can be as lucky as Jordan. Barry has also attempted winter fishing. He also made ice shoes similar to Jordan's with branches, but there was no gain. If a fish could make Jordan feel as if he had a treasure, then a rabbit could also give Vonia the same feeling. Halloween is just a few days away. She wants to store food and have a big meal on the festival day. When she went out to check the traps, I unexpectedly discovered a rabbit coming out to look for food. But when she drew her bow and arrow to hunt, it couldn't even hit the target from a distance of 2 meters. I just realized that the gap between her and the champion's level is as vast as the ocean. It was already quite good luck for her to see the rabbit. Little did she know that the runaway rabbit was giving back to her in another way. Vonia successfully caught a rabbit in her trap. By this time, the rabbit's fur had all turned white. This indicates that winter has fully arrived. Rabbits will change their color according to the environment to protect themselves. Today, Vonia caught 2 snow rabbits. For a moment, she was blinded by the joy of success. I can't imagine how delicious it would be to have 2 rabbits in one meal on Halloween. On the evening of the 70th day, Jordan, who used to look fierce whenever he saw animals. Tonight, however, he was especially kind and amiable, because an unexpected guest came to the shelter. A weasel suddenly visited Jordan's home. It steals things blatantly just because it looks cute. A leftover rabbit skin became its target for theft. Jordan just watched the weasel carry away the rabbit skin. The process of the weasel stealing food added a bit of fun to Jordan. The temperature has dropped to minus 18 degrees now. It was even colder than Jordan had imagined. As soon as I came out of the shelter, I could feel the bone-chilling wind. For Jordan, 5 years of experience living with reindeer herders in Siberia, it is especially precious at this moment. Jordan wanted to go and get a piece of meat to eat. However, in a cold environment, only supplementing protein can easily lead to poisoning. Protein poisoning is a condition similar to hunger, when a body takes insufficient calories. But this happens when there is a deficiency of nutrients. But when he came to the storage platform, the scene before his eyes made him break down instantly. The last time Jordan took the meat and left, forgot to return the ladder to its original position. This gives thieves an opportunity to take advantage. Jordan saw the footprints on the ground. It should be that the Wolverine from before came back to steal the food. Fortunately, I only got some fat. There was no loss in the quantity of meat, but the oily skin of the trout was also gnawed off completely. Jordan immediately felt like a fool. I feel regretful and ashamed of my carelessness. The current temperature has dropped to minus 18 degrees. Jordan is not the only one who regrets his carelessness. And Nathan, that night when he was stewing fish soup at the shelter, the fire in the fire pile is too intense. The environment inside the winter shelter is dry. The fire suddenly spread like wildfire. Nathan immediately dismantled the wood and slapped the sparks. The more he tried to put out the fire, the faster it spread, and he almost got himself burned. In the end, the fire developed to an irreparable extent. Nathan just watched helplessly as the shelter was burned down. He knew that the fire had burned down more than just the shelter, and his $500,000 also came to nothing. The shelter kept popping sparks behind him. In this pitch-black Arctic wilderness night sky, it is like a beautiful moment of fireworks. Nathan's challenge is doomed to cease. He called the program team and requested to withdraw from the competition. Whether it's Vonia's or Nathan's shelter, they have repeatedly warned us of the safety of the fireplace in the shelter. At this point, we can't help but mention Amos from the 7th season of Living Alone in the Wild. His process was basically the same as Nathan's. All of them lit up the entire wilderness by burning their own shelters. I believe everyone was as shocked as I was when they saw the fire in their shelter. Early this morning, Jordan woke up clamoring for chocolate. He wanted to go and get some bone marrow to eat. Bone marrow tastes very much like chocolate after being frozen. A few days ago, the wolverine ate his fish skin. This made him very angry. After getting up, he came to the lake again to check the gill net. Fish is the only food from which he can obtain fat now. Today he wants to try ice fishing. He thought of fishing with lights. When fishing, projecting light into the water can attract plankton and, in turn, fish. He dug through the snow at the entrance of the cave, shine a headlamp on the water surface, then lie on the cold lake surface, waiting for the fat fish to bite. Jordan needs to consume over 45 grams of fat every day to maintain his current weight. After waiting for quite a while, finally, I couldn't stand the cold any longer and went home. Jordan has always been worried about his weight. He is now looking forward to the wolverine coming to steal food again. In this way, I might be able to hunt a wolverine myself. The fat in the wolverine's body can provide Jordan with some energy to a greater or lesser extent. He knew that it would be very difficult to get fish meat through ice fishing. All of a sudden, he fell into anxiety over the rapid loss of weight. At this moment, a helicopter appeared in the air. Vonia officially withdrew from the competition. She chose to withdraw from the competition because her body couldn't hold on any longer. The rabbit scarf on Vonia's body has already proved her strength. She, like Kelly, needs no more words. Vonia has survived for 73 days so far. Personally, I think she is already very strong. Vonia's withdrawal from the competition means that Jordan has officially become the champion. In the blink of an eye, it's already the 77th day. Jordan came to the lake early this morning to collect the net. A 30-pound giant pike was caught in the gill net. The moment this fish was pulled up from the lake surface, you would never have imagined that it could be worth $500,000 US, just because in this brutal Arctic survival challenge, this fish can keep Jordan eating for at least a week. At this moment, Jordan was still immersed in the joy of the barracuda. He was completely unaware that he had become the champion of this Arctic challenge. When he returned to the shelter, I stewed a full pot of fish soup for lunch. He's going to have a good meal, because today is the day for the physical examination. Jordan was forced to withdraw from the game for fear of losing weight. When he was enjoying the stewed fish, the helicopter for physical examination has come here again. This time the helicopter has arrived. It's no longer the case of taking the contestants who withdrew from the competition home as usual. Instead, it welcomes the return of the victors. Jordan is trying hard to tell the program team that he is doing well here. He has always emphasized that he is striving to maintain his weight. He tried to pray in this way that the program team would not force him to withdraw from the competition because of his weight problem. Little did he know that his wife was approaching quietly behind him. When the wife appeared at this moment, Jordan couldn't believe the scene before him. It was not until then that I realized I was the champion of this Arctic challenge. He showed his spoils to his wife. The two embraced each other in the shelter. The wife also thoroughly felt the hardships and efforts her husband had made during these days. In the icy Arctic Circle, survival has never been a game of courage but a practice of will. In that boundless cold plain, Jordan was not fighting against nature, but coexisting with it. Over the long days and nights, he learned to exercise restraint, to wait, and to replace fear with silence. Jordan proved with his actions that a true strong person is not someone who conquers the wilderness, but someone who can find peace in it. He didn't win by luck, but by composure, skill, and that indomitable will. Alright, that's all for the season championship episode. If you also like this series of videos, welcome to like and subscribe to my channel. We will continue to update more films of this series for everyone in the future.